So if you've seen some of my other videos, this one's going to be a little bit different. This is just going to be a tutorial, so you won't actually see me. How sad for you. So I recently started getting into like retro gaming on emulators, and one of the biggest pain points that I've run into is transferring save files between devices. So say for example you're playing Pokemon on your phone, you come home and you want to keep playing on your computer. We have to transfer the save file over to your computer by plugging in your phone, copying the file over, continuing to play, and then when you're done, if you want to play on your phone, you have to make sure you copy the save file over and overwrite it, and it's just a big mess. So I figured out a way to sync your save files, your save states, and your ROMs up to Google Drive and have it automatically push any changes up to the cloud and then pull down all of those changes to your various devices. So this tutorial is going to be done in Windows and using Android. If you're on Mac OS, then the steps on Windows are essentially going to be the same. And if you're on iOS, unfortunately, Apple doesn't allow emulators on the App Store. There is a way by like sideloading different apps onto your iPhone, but since that's kind of out of the scope of this video, I'm just going to post some links in the description. And if you have your heart really set on getting this to work on iOS, then you'll have to figure it out kind of on your own. The concept is going to be the same, but you'll have to figure it out because the resources are going to be kind of different. So again, I'll post some links in the description, and those should be useful for you. So to get this to work, then on every single device, we're going to be downloading RetroArch. And if you haven't heard about RetroArch, it's an open source front end for emulators, and they've done a lot of work getting to work with a bunch of different devices. The nice thing about RetroArch is, let's say your go-to Super Nintendo emulator is SNES 9X. What RetroArch does is it bundles up the SNES 9X engine and then makes it like a core that you can download for RetroArch for all of these different devices. So it makes all of these different types of emulators compatible with each one of these devices. Obviously, based off of your hardware, it's going to be a little bit different of an experience, but it's a very well done piece of software. And like I said, it's cross-platform, so all of your save states are going to be able to work on all of these different devices. And another nice thing is with RetroArch, then it has a bunch of like controller profiles already loaded. So I'm going to go over like a quick little tutorial of it a little bit later. But if you're on Windows, you're probably going to want to install the 64-bit version. If you're on Mac, then you're going to probably download this one, assuming you have a newer version of Mac OS. And then Android, it's on the Play Store. Again, I'm going to post all these links in the description. And then in addition to having your emulator, then you're also going to have to download syncing software for each device. So on Windows and Mac, then it's going to be the Google Drive Backup and Sync. And on Android, then it's going to be AutoSync for Google Drive. I already have these downloaded. I'm going to pause the video, install them, and then I'll be right back. So I just finished installing them using the defaults for everything. So we're going to go through Google Drive Backup and Sync. So close. It should automatically pop up with the setup. If it doesn't, then down here in your tray, then click on this little icon, the little cloud with the arrow on it. It looks similar to OneDrive if you already have that installed, but this is the one that you want with the arrow. So you click on that, click Get Started, and I found it easiest just to sign in with your browser. So click that, and it'll pull up your Google accounts. Select the one that you want it to sync with Google Drive. Click that, and then click Allow. When you go back to Backup and Sync, just click Got It. It's going to want to start pushing things on your computer up to the cloud. I'm just going to uncheck those and then switch this to high quality just in case it ever starts uploading pictures. Then click Next, and again this pops up again. So yeah, so now it's going to go to the Google Drive Make sure that this is checked, and then if you want to pick a custom location for your Google Drive to pull all of the files down to your computer, you can do that. I'm going to leave it as default. And then I'm going to uncheck sync everything in my drive, and then uncheck this because we're going to create a folder later. If you've already done this video, then you're going to have a folder show up that says sync between devices in here, and then make sure that that one's checked, and that will pull all of the changes down to your computer. Then click start, and then it's going to pull up the folder automatically, and just wait for a little bit while it gets initialized. Then you go in here, we're going to create a new folder, and it will pop up with this. Just click continue, and then it will allow you to create the new folder. And it may take a little while. So we're going to call this folder sync between devices. Whoops. Sync between devices. And this is the folder where we're going to put everything that we want being pulled down from Google Drive. So then in here, I'm just going to create a new folder called RetroArch. And then I'm going to create a couple new folders in here. The first one's going to be ROMs, saves, and states. And so these three folders are going to be synced across all of your devices. So we jump back to the RetroArch install, click finish, and then it will pop up with this. I find it easiest to do this in the desktop menu. So click that and it will pull open like an older desktop menu. Go view, options, and then on this side scroll to the bottom, click directory, and then over here scroll to the bottom and save file. We're going to change this folder to our Google Drive folder, sync between devices, RetroArch, and then saves, and then click save folder, and then save states. We're going to go in here, Google Drive, sync between devices, RetroArch, states, select folder. And I believe with save files, if you already are using an emulator, you can actually take the save files from there and stick them in this folder. And then a little bit later I'll show you how RetroArch actually works. And this will actually sync those save files between all of your devices. So click X, close out of this, and then over here in RetroArch, I'm going to just show you a quick little tutorial. So you have to load cores, which is just the engine for different emulators. So load core, you're going to download a core, and I'm going to show you guys just a quick example of the Sega Genesis. It is a little annoying because you have to scroll through it all, and here we go. So this is the kind of emulation engine that I'm going to download. So we'll download that, and then you go back, and then you have to click load core, load that, and now the core has been loaded into memory, and now you load content. So I'm going to put a ROM file in here. So I just put Sonic & Knuckles Sonic 3 in here. I'm not going to tell you guys where to find ROMs because emulation is kind of in a legal gray area. But with the Sega Genesis games, then on Steam, if you buy Sega's Genesis emulator, then the ROMs are actually just compressed in the folder in there. And so I'll put a Reddit link in the description that talks about that. And so this is kind of a legal way to obtain ROMs. So Nintendo, if you're listening, people do actually buy ROMs. So you go back to RetroArch, and we have the Sega Genesis engine already loaded. Then you go load content. If you went with the default, it's going to be in C, users, your name, and then Google Drive, sync between devices, RetroArch, sync between devices, RetroArch, ROMs, and then your ROMs will be in here. So I open up the RetroArch quick menu, and then I'm going to click Save State. And so it created a save state file, and I'm just going to quit RetroArch on here. And then if we go back into this folder, we'll see that that save state file is in our Google Drive folder. And now I'm going to go over to the phone and show you how to set it up on the phone. So over here on the phone, then you're going to open up Auto Drive Sync, and again I'll put the link in the description. So you click on Connect to Google Drive, and then it will ask you which account you want. Make sure to pick the same one that you did when setting up Google Backup and Sync. Click OK, then click Choose What to Sync. Click OK to allow it to access onboard storage. And then we're going to create our own folder pair. So then click Remote Folder in Google Drive, My Files, Sync Between Devices, and we're going to select this as the root folder. And then Local Folder and Device, I'm just going to create a new folder. Click Create, select, and then make sure it's set to two-way, sync enabled, click Saved. And now it's going to pull all of the files that we have on our Google Drive down to our device. And something to make sure that you're aware of is over here in Settings, when you click AutoSync, then AutoSync interval is set to 1 hour. You can actually shorten this to 5 minutes. It will drain your battery a little bit more, but this will only check if there's any changes made to that Google Drive folder every hour. And you can also set other settings in here. I'm going to just leave it at 1 hour just because I don't plan on playing on different devices within 1 hour. But you can change it to whatever you want. And so now we go over to the RetroArch install, and then click OK, allow, and then it's going to load RetroArch. And we're going to have to do the same kind of settings we did on the desktop. You go over to the settings icon over here, scroll to the bottom, directory, scroll to the bottom, click Save File, Storage Emulated, Sync Between Devices, RetroArch, Saves, and then use this directory. And then again, scroll to the bottom, Save States, Storage Emulated, scroll to the bottom, Sync Between Devices, RetroArch, States, use this directory. Then go back, and then you're going to have to download the same core that you downloaded on the desktop. You're going to want to make sure that you use the same different cores. So this is the core that I downloaded on my PC, and then click back, load core, select that core, load content, storage emulated, sync between devices, RetroArch ROMs, and then select this. And so it's going to load up the game. If you click on the little RetroArch icon in the middle, you can actually click Load State, and it loads it up from where we saved on our PC. And then you can do the same thing on here. You can do Save State if you want. And then when you're done, click Menu, Save State, and it saves that new state. Quit RetroArch. And like I said, it's only going to auto-sync once every hour. If you want to force an auto-sync, or if you want to force a sync, then you click on the little sync icon down here on the bottom. It's going to pull up an ad, close, and then it will push that save state back up to the cloud. And since your computer is connected to power and the internet constantly, then this is a much more aggressive checking of updates. So you can see this was synced 1 minute ago. And you can always rely on having the computer being up to date. So there you go. If you need any help getting RetroArch set up, leave a comment below in the description. Also make sure to like and subscribe this video if you found it useful. And next week I'm going to be talking about some of my favorite controllers that I like to use for emulation, both on a kind of a desktop scenario and on the mobile side. So again, make sure you hit that like button.